Hey guys, it's Vu. There are two problems with printing in a Prusa printer that you'll get when you have it in a cold room. Prusa recommends 17 centigrade. That works out to about high 67, 68 degrees Fahrenheit for your minimum temperature in a room in the winter. Sometimes that's just not feasible, especially if you're printing in a garage like I do. So when I get a MINTEMP error, that's usually typically when the printer's just turned on. What I do is I hit the reset button and preheat it immediately. The other workaround is to blow dry your heat bed, warm that up, and blow dry the heat block a little bit and warm those up, and that will also avoid the MINTEMP error. I don't love the solution, but there it is. And then the other error you'll have when you're printing with PLA especially is the thermal runaway error. Thermal runaway is when the part cooling fan, the fan that cools the freshly printed filament, overcools the heater block because it's sucking in cold air from the room and therefore working better or maybe too strong for what it's designed for. And so the heater block basically drops in temperature way too fast, and then you get a minimum temperature error, which is designed, or I'm sorry, a thermal runaway error, which is designed to protect the printer from clogging and jamming. So, but it stops your print dead. The solution is to reduce the part cooling on the PLA. The way you do this is to go into PrusaSlicer 2.1 here, go into filament settings, right up here, click on the cooling. That's the second option on the left. I'm in expert mode. If you're in simple mode, you'll not see any of that. So you need to click on expert mode here on the right. That will enable the cooling to appear. Keep fan on, enable auto cooling. For PLA, you do want to keep the fan on. For nylon, you always want to keep the fan off. For PETG, you'll keep the fan on, but at a lower temperature. But we're going to talk about PLA because the PETG temperature profile tends to be just fine in cold rooms. It doesn't seem to have a problem because PETG is cooled below 50%. For PLA, though, we want to keep the fan always on, but in this case, since it's sucking in cold air, we don't need it to blow out quite as much. So what we're going to do is go down here to fan speed. We're going to reduce that fan speed to a minimum of 75 and a maximum of 75. We're going to change the bridging speed to 75 also. That's going to change the maximum running speed of the fan while you're printing. We're going to hit the save icon here, and then we're going to go ahead and rename this to 75% cooling. So this will be Prusa PLA at 75% cooling. You can use a generic PLA preset if you like. I've not found a whole lot of difference between them other than a couple of minor things. Hit OK. Now let's go ahead and set the platter. So we're going to go back to our platter here. I've already arranged some objects here. We're printing a little lightsaber for some kids. We're going to hit the print set. We're going to start by selecting our printer. We're going to select our profile. You'll notice that since I last worked on it, it's selected, but if you need to come back to it, it's going to be at the very bottom under user presets. You're going to pick here Prusa PLA as your setting, 75% cooling, and then you can go ahead and slice it. At that point, the 75% cooling will be baked in. You won't get that thermal runaway error that you get on the second or third layer this way. If your room is so darn cold that you still get thermal runaways, go back to filament settings. Again, making sure you're on expert mode. Click on cooling, and then change your maximum fan speed to 50%. I found when my room is extra cold that going to 50% pretty much kills those thermal runaway errors dead. You do want to keep, there is a little bit of trial and error to this. You do want to keep your fan speed as high as possible with PLA because otherwise your overhangs and your bridges will start to sag. So cooling is important. You just have to compromise when you're in a very cold room. I hope this helps. Take care. Until next time, happy printing.